It's just a matter of time before Apple will be completely done with Intel. It's kind of crazy. Apple turned to Intel back in 2005 because it could not manage to get more power into its computers. So let's take a look at how Intel went from Apple's best buddy to, well, Intel. This is Ayaz, and that is the rundown. You can jump around with the time codes in the description. Go ahead. I won't mind. So let's go back to a time when Apple computers did not use Intel chips. The year is 2005. George W. Bush is the president of the United States. YouTube is brand new. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, is the last new Star Wars movie we'll see for over 10 years. Apple's having a problem. It cannot make a laptop with its most powerful chip, the G5. The G5 worked well on desktops except for that one cube thing that kept overheating, but if you wanted to pop that chip into a PowerBook, there were going to be some problems. Here's a quote from David Moody, VP of Worldwide Mac Product Marketing at Apple. It is fair to say that incorporating a G5 into a notebook as thin and light as the PowerBook is extremely difficult. So let's think about that a little bit. If it can't be thin and light, a G5 PowerBook would be heavier and larger. That chip also got really hot, so you're gonna need fans. So it's a fat, noisy machine. Sounds like Apple, right? So June 2005, Steve Jobs tells the world that Apple is moving to Intel chips. Why? Take it away, Steve.
We are gonna begin the transition from the PowerPC to Intel processors. Now, I stood up here 2 years ago in front of you, and I promised you this. And we haven't been able to deliver that to you yet. I think a lot of you would like a G5 in your PowerBook, and we haven't been able to deliver that to you yet.
2006 rolls around, and we're getting the new Intel-powered Macs, and hey, they run well. Apple used a software solution to make sure older PowerPC apps would still work on the Intel machines. Apple decides to rebrand their machines while they're at it. The iBook becomes the MacBook. The PowerBook becomes the MacBook Pro. The Power Mac becomes the Mac Pro. The iMac becomes the Mac. Okay, that last one isn't true. So Intel and Apple are holding hands and they're in all kinds of love. While all this stuff is happening, Apple is working on a phone of some kind. And get this, Intel had the opportunity to build the processor inside the iPhone. Let that sink in for a second. So what's the source of this information? Is it a bunch of rumors? Is it conjecture? No, it's Paul Otellini, former CEO of Intel. He explained the whole thing to The Atlantic. Take it away, dramatic reenactor Paul.
We ended up not winning it or passing on it, depending on how you want to view it. And the world would have been a lot different if we'd done it. The thing you have to remember is that this was before the iPhone was introduced. No one knew what the iPhone would do.
Paul, why would you do that?
At the end of the day, there was a chip that they were interested in, that they wanted to pay a certain price for, and not a nickel more, and that price was below our forecasted cost. I couldn't see it. It wasn't one of these things you can make up on volume. And in hindsight, the forecasted cost was wrong, and the volume was 100 times more what anyone thought.
Any other words you want to add to that?
The lesson I took away from that was, while we like to speak with data around here, so many times in my career, I've ended up making decisions with my gut. And I should have followed my gut. My gut told me to say yes.
Well, isn't that something? So Apple went ahead with its own chip design for the iPhone. And who built that chip for them? Apple's pal, Samsung. Yes, that's true, and don't you just love how business works? So Intel could have powered the iPhone, but that didn't happen, but Intel was inside of Mac, so that's good. The Apple-Intel partnership seemed to be going swimmingly up until 2015. That's like a 9-year honeymoon. Let's set the stage for 2015. Barack Obama is the president. Net neutrality was protected in the US, and the first of many new Star Wars movies is coming up. Enter Skylake, Intel's newest processors, and potentially the beginning of the end of Intel and Apple. Former Intel principal engineer Francois Piednol explained. Take it away, dramatic reenactor Francois.
The quality assurance of Skylake was more than a problem. It was abnormally bad. We were getting way too much citing for little things inside Skylake. Basically, our buddies at Apple became the #1 filer of problems in the architecture. And that went really, really bad. When your customer starts finding almost as much bugs as you found yourself, you're not leading in the right place. For me, this is the inflection point. This is where the Apple guys who were always contemplating to switch, they went and looked at it and said, well, we've probably got to do it. Basically, the bad quality assurance at Skylake is responsible for them to actually go away from the platform.
So yeah, that's not great. In 2018, Bloomberg reported that Apple was planning to dump Intel as early as 2020. Now, that's pretty dang accurate. Look, Apple has a history of wanting to control every part of its devices, so the reports did not sound crazy at all. Speaking of controlling every part of its devices, Apple bought Intel's smartphone modem biz in 2019 for $1 billion. So right now, Intel is kind of like that last guest at the Apple party, just kind of awkwardly standing there, not going home yet. But, don't feel too bad. Intel's got plenty of other parties to go to. Will Apple ever return to Intel for chips? I'll say probably not. If Apple can get the performance it wants out of its computers with its own chips, Apple will just keep at it. Plus, Apple has a huge app library from iOS and iPadOS that can be tinkered with to fill in any app gaps. I think the real question is, will Apple start running ads like this where they used to mock Intel?
Apple Computer would like to apologize for toasting the Pentium 2 processor in public. But the fact remains, the chip inside every new Power Macintosh G3 is up to twice as fast.
Maybe. Could you imagine if Intel powered the iPhone? Let me know what you think about that in the comments. I've been Ayaz Akhtar, and I will see you online. Thank you, dramatic actors. You did a wonderful job.